The Council species were discovering this the hard way. 3 Lumina trading vessels had tried to enter human space yesterday using their old access codes. The codes didn't work anymore. The ships were turned away, politely but firmly. When one captain protested, citing a trade agreement, the response was simple. That agreement was terminated 3 months ago when humanity withdrew from the Council. On the bridge view screen, a priority communication lit up. Governor Dongjun appeared, calling from the distant colony of Mir. The settlement was humanity's furthest outpost, nearly 8 months away from Earth by conventional drive. "Admiral," Dongjun said. His weather-worn face showed a fierce grin. "We've just established first contact with 3 independent systems in the outer reaches. None of them are Council members. All of them are very interested in trade agreements with the Colonial Alliance." "The Colonial Alliance?" Ji-Hai asked. "That's what we're calling ourselves now. 47 human colonies have formally organized. We're coordinating expansion, trade, and mutual defense. Without Council restrictions, we can finally do what we've always wanted to do." Ji-Hai pulled up a star chart. In 3 months, humanity had established 12 new colonies. That was more than in the previous 5 years combined. Without the Council's 5-year approval process, without the arbitrary restrictions on protected sectors, human expansion was accelerating dramatically. "How many new settlements are planned?" she asked. 63 in the next year, Dongjun replied. "We've got colony ships being built in 15 different orbital yards. Families are signing up faster than we can process applications. People want to build something new, Admiral. Something that's ours." After the call ended, Ji-Hai's communication officer turned to her. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from Council space. There are protests on Lumina Prime. Medical shortages are causing riots." That was expected. The Lumina Collective had become dependent on human cellular regeneration technology. The treatment extended their lifespans by 30%. For over a decade, human scientists had provided this technology freely, hoping it would build goodwill with the Council. That goodwill never materialized. Now the treatment was unavailable. Human companies had stopped all exports to Council members. The Lumina people were discovering what it felt like when your survival depended on someone else's goodwill, and they took it away. Far away, on Earth, Trade Minister Yuna stood before the Global Assembly. She was presenting humanity's new economic strategy, and the numbers told a remarkable story. Before withdrawal, 70% of human trade went to Council members, she explained. We were getting the worst end of every deal because we had no leverage. Council members knew we needed their approval more than they needed our goods. She pulled up a holographic chart. In 3 months, we've reduced Council trade to 0. We've replaced it with agreements with independent systems, minor species that the Council ignored, and direct human-to-human colonial commerce. Our economic output has increased by 18%. A delegate from South America raised her hand. But surely the Council will retaliate? Economic sanctions? Trade embargoes? Yuna smiled. They're trying. But here's what they're discovering. They need us more than we need them. Human rare isotopes from Jupiter's moons are essential for advanced manufacturing. 11 Council species use them. They don't have replacements. Human medical technology was supporting 6 different species. Human cybernetic interfaces were the galactic standard. We provided all of this, and what did we get in return? Access to technology we've now surpassed and trade deals that barely broke even. She changed the display to show resource flows. The Council was a net drain on humanity's economy. We gave more than we received. Now we're trading with partners who actually value what we offer. In a quiet office in Geneva, Foreign Secretary Te Yang took a call on a secure channel. It was Councillor Thex of the Saurian hegemony. The reptilian diplomat's scales were showing colors that indicated stress. Foreign Secretary, Vex began. I'm contacting you privately, not as an official council communication. I'm listening, Taeyang replied. There are members of the council who realize we may have made a mistake. Your departure has created problems we didn't anticipate. The minor species are asking difficult questions. If humanity could simply walk away, what's stopping them from doing the same? Taeyang leaned back in his chair. And what would you like from me, counselor? Is there any path to resuming talks? Any terms under which humanity would consider returning? The question hung in the air. Taeyang thought about the riots on Lumina Prime. He thought about the human colonies expanding freely. He thought about young scientists on Luna Station who were finally able to pursue research the Council had labeled too dangerous or unnecessary. He thought about Admiral Ji Hai's fleet, no longer handicapped by Council restrictions on military technology. No, he said finally. We're not interested in returning to the Council. Not under any terms that resemble what we had before. Then what do you want? To be left alone. To build our future without someone constantly telling us we're not good enough. If the Council wants to trade with us, they can approach us as equals. If they want to maintain peaceful relations, we're open to that. But we're done being provisional members, waiting for approval that would never come. Vex's scales shifted to a pattern Taeyang's translator interpreted as resignation. The old guard is talking about sanctions. Some are discussing military options. Let them talk, Taeyang said. We left peacefully. We'd prefer things stay peaceful. But if the Council decides to test us, they'll discover that humanity has been preparing for this possibility for years. After ending the call, Taeyang pulled up intelligence reports. What he saw confirmed his strategy was working. 5 minor Council species had begun secret talks about withdrawal. The economic disruption was spreading. And most critically, the Council's appearance of invincibility was cracking. Back on the Sovereign Dawn, Admiral Ji Hai received an urgent alert. Council reconnaissance ships had been detected surveying human defensive positions. They were gathering intelligence, probably for a military assessment. She made a decision. It was time to show the galaxy what humanity had been building. Ji Hai authorized a public data release. Military analysts across the galaxy suddenly received detailed information about human fleet strength. The numbers stunned everyone. Human naval forces were 3 times larger than Council intelligence had estimated. New ship classes with advanced weapon systems. Defensive platforms with overlapping fields of fire. And most shocking, technology that Council scientists thought was decades away from practical application. Humanity had been conducting pure research for decades, in fields the Council dismissed. Quantum computing that surpassed Council standards by an order of magnitude. Directed energy weapons with twice the efficiency of anything the Council had. Fusion drives that let human ships accelerate faster and maneuver harder than established designs. Advanced materials that made human armor lighter and stronger. The Council had been so busy congratulating itself on 10,000 years of technological refinement that it never noticed humanity was innovating at a pace that seemed reckless. What the Council called reckless, humanity called necessary. When you're treated as inferior, you either accept it or prove them wrong. Humanity chose to prove them wrong. The reconnaissance ships left human space quickly after the data release went public. On a Council military base, Executor Krell reviewed the intelligence with growing concern. The warrior had been assigned to develop a plan for containing humanity. That plan was supposed to be simple, a show of force to remind the humans of their place. Now that plan looked dangerously inadequate. On Earth, President Tae-hyung addressed the planet in a broadcast that reached every human colony and station. 3 months ago, we walked away from the Galactic Council. Many people feared we were making a terrible mistake. They said we'd be isolated, vulnerable, that we'd come crawling back within weeks. But look at what we've built in just 3 months. New colonies, new trade partners, new friends among the stars. We're not crawling back. We're walking forward. And we're not walking alone. He paused, looking directly into the camera. The council thought we needed them. They were wrong. They need us. And now they're learning what happens when you treat people as inferiors for too long. Eventually, those people stop caring what you think. Captain De Hayen checked his instruments for the 3rd time. The readings were still impossible, but they were consistent. Impossible and consistent was better than impossible and random. Are you seeing this? His science officer asked from her station. I'm seeing it, Hayen replied. I just don't believe it. The exploration vessel Indomitable Dawn hung in space at the edge of an uncharted region. The sector was one the Council had declared off-limits centuries ago. Cultural preservation site, the old records claimed. Ancient ruins that needed to be protected from interference. That was a lie. Before them, stretching across thousands of kilometers, was a structure, not ruins. An active, powered, functional structure. Energy readings were off the scale, and the design matched nothing in any galactic database. Captain, I'm picking up similar readings at multiple points across this region, the science officer reported. At least to double. Distinct structures. They're all powered, all active, and all deliberately hidden. De Hayen pulled up star charts showing Council-restricted zones. He overlaid the energy readings. The match was perfect. Every restricted zone had one of these structures. The Council had known about them for centuries and had kept them secret. What are they? He asked. The science officer worked her console, running analysis programs. Based on the energy signatures and spatial distortion fields? Captain, I think they're jump gates. Really, really advanced jump gates. Jump gates existed in galactic civilization, but they were rare and expensive. The few that operated could reduce travel time between distant points from months to weeks. They were considered near miraculous technology, barely understood even after thousands of years of study. These gates were different. The readings suggested they could reduce months of travel to days, maybe hours. Send a probe, De Hayen ordered. They launched a small automated probe toward the nearest structure. The gate activated as the probe approached. Massive rings of exotic matter began rotating. Space itself seemed to twist and fold. The probe vanished. 3 seconds later, it reappeared at another gate structure, 800 light-years away. The probe's logs showed the journey had been instantaneous from its perspective. De Hayen sat back in his command chair. 800 light-years in 3 seconds. The implications were staggering. Get me Foreign Secretary Tae Yang, he said quietly. He needs to know about this immediately. 6 hours later, the Discovery had reached Earth. In the secure situation room beneath Geneva, a crisis meeting was underway. Tae Yang, Admiral Ji Hai, President Tae Young, and Chief Scientist Bai Ori studied the data from the Indomitable Dawn. The Council has been hiding these gates for centuries, Biora said. She was a small woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. They've been slowly studying them, trying to understand the technology. And they've been preventing anyone else from accessing them. Why? President Tae-Young asked. Control, Admiral Ji Hai answered. Whoever controls this gate network controls galactic civilization. Fast travel means economic dominance, military advantage, everything. The Council wanted to maintain their power structure. Ta Zhang studied the network map that Bi-O-Ra had assembled. The gates formed a web across the galaxy. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all hidden in regions the Council had declared off limits. What's our move? The president asked. Admiral G. High leaned forward. We activate them. All of them. We map the network, establish control protocols, and start using them. Human space just got a lot bigger. Within 2 weeks, human ships were activating gates across the frontier. The Colonial Alliance, led by Governor Gongjun, transformed overnight. Colonies that had been months apart could now communicate and trade in days. Resources flowed freely. People moved between settlements as easily as traveling between cities. Human expansion accelerated again. New colonies appeared in regions previously considered too distant to settle. The Colonial Alliance stopped being a loose confederation and became a true economic and political power. Ambassador Minji, working from the human embassy on the independent world of Threshold, began negotiating with non-council species. Her message was simple: join humanity's trade network, get access to the gates. 17 independent systems signed treaties within a month. They called themselves the Free Space Coalition. No hierarchies, no provisional memberships. Every species was equal. And at the center of this new coalition was humanity, not as masters, but as partners who had found something remarkable and chosen to share it. On Lumina Prime, Counselor Veshtari was facing a crisis. The protests over medical shortages had evolved into something worse: political upheaval. Citizens were demanding to know why the council had hidden the gates, why they had restricted access to technology that could have benefited everyone, why they had treated humanity so poorly that humans had walked away, taking their medical advances with them. We must act, Veshtari told the council assembly. Humanity is destabilizing the entire galactic order. Perhaps the order needed destabilizing, Councilor Vex replied. His scales showed colors of challenge. We've maintained power through information control and arbitrary restrictions. Humanity has exposed that. Other species are noticing. He was right. 12 minor council species had formally announced their withdrawal. They cited the same reasons humanity had: unequal treatment, arbitrary restrictions, condescension from the established powers. The council that had ruled for millennia was fracturing. On Luna Station, Chief Scientist Baya Ra gave an interview that was broadcast across both human and alien space. She explained humanity's technological surge with simple honesty. The council told us we shouldn't pursue certain research. They said quantum computing above certain levels was unnecessary. They said our fusion drive designs were too aggressive. They said our weapons research was inappropriate for a provisional member. So we ignored them and did the research anyway. She pulled up holographic displays showing human innovations. While the council was refining 10,000-year-old technology, making incremental improvements, humanity was trying wild new approaches. Some failed. Many failed. But some succeeded brilliantly. That's what innovation looks like. It's messy and unpredictable and sometimes wasteful. The council forgot that. They got comfortable with their ancient technology and stopped taking risks. The interview went viral. Young scientists from dozens of species watched a human explain how humanity had surpassed council standards through sheer willingness to experiment and fail and try again, far away. On the council military base, Executor Krell received his orders. The council hardliners, led by Veshtari, had decided that humanity needed to be contained. The gate network needed to be secured. Human expansion needed to stop. Krell assembled the largest military fleet in 3 centuries. 800 warships from a dozen council species. The mission was clear: blockade the gate network, force humanity to negotiate, and restore council authority over the ancient structures. His second-in-command, an officer named Zek, reviewed the fleet composition with visible doubt. Sir, human military capabilities are significantly greater than we estimated. This force may not be adequate. It's adequate for a show of force, Krell replied. We're not planning to fight a war. We're reminding humanity of their place. When they see this fleet, they'll understand they can't challenge the Council's authority. Jek's scales showed skepticism, but he said nothing more. On Earth, intelligence services detected the fleet mobilization immediately. The Council wasn't even trying to hide it. They wanted humanity to see it. Wanted humanity to be intimidated. Admiral G. High reviewed the tactical situation with her staff. The Council fleet was heading for Frontier Gate, the primary entrance to human space from Council territory. They're going to blockade the gate, her tactical officer said. Standard intimidation tactic. They'll demand we surrender control of the network. What are our forces at Frontier Gate? Ji-Hai asked. Commander In-Su has 47 vessels. The Council is bringing 800. The numbers looked bad. But Admiral Ji-Hai had been preparing for this scenario for months. She had planned for the possibility that the Council would try to force humanity back into submission. Send Commander In-Su the authorization codes for Protocol Cascade, she ordered, and prepare to transmit a galaxy-wide broadcast. If the Council wants a show of force, we'll give them one, but not the one they're expecting. President Tae-hyung asked Admiral Ji-Hai if they should try diplomatic channels first. Maybe avoid a confrontation. They're bringing 800 warships to our border, Ji-Hai replied. That's not a diplomatic mission. That's a threat. And if we back down now, we'll be backing down forever. Humanity walked away from the Council because we were tired of being treated as inferiors. If we flinch when they try to intimidate us, we're proving them right. The President nodded slowly. Then we show them what humanity is made of. Foreign Secretary Tae-young sent one last message to Councilor Vex through back channels. The message was simple. Tell the reasonable members of the Council to distance themselves from what's about to happen. Because we're not backing down. The Vakran fleet arrived at Frontier Gate 3 days later. 800 warships in perfect formation. An overwhelming display of military power. They found Commander In-Su waiting for them with 47 human vessels. The math seemed simple. But as Executor Krell would soon learn, math doesn't account for innovation, desperation, and the willingness of people fighting for their independence to do whatever it takes to protect what they've built. Commander In-Su stood on the bridge of the defense station Sentinel's watch, studying the tactical display. 800 Council warships hung in space before her, their formations precise and intimidating. Behind her, 47 human vessels waited for orders. The numbers were terrible. But In-Su had earned her reputation by winning fights she shouldn't have won. She did it by never fighting the battle the enemy expected. Executor Krell's image appeared on the main screen. The Vakran warrior's reptilian features showed confidence bordering on arrogance. Commander In-Su, Krell began. I speak for the Galactic Council. Humanity has seized control of ancient structures that belong to. O all civilized species, you will surrender control of the Gate network immediately. You will submit to Council arbitration regarding your illegal expansion, and you will accept restrictions on your military forces. If you refuse, we will take these actions by force. In-Su let him finish. Then she smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Executor Krell, I speak for humanity. The gates don't belong to the Council. They never did. You hid them for centuries while pretending they didn't exist. You lied to your own members about cultural preservation sites. You're only here because we activated technology you couldn't figure out how to use properly. You will comply or face the consequences. We decline. If you want a fight, you'll get one. But I promise you, it won't be the fight you're expecting. On Earth, President Tae-hyung prepared to address both humanity and the entire galaxy. The broadcast would reach every major world, every species, every system that had communication relays. He stood in front of cameras, knowing that billions of beings would watch this moment. Behind him, holographic displays showed the standoff at Frontier Gate. "People of Earth and the colonies," he began. "Citizens of the galaxy. 9 months ago, humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council because we were tired of being treated as inferiors. We offered partnership. We received condescension. We proved our worth countless times. The goalposts kept moving." He gestured to the tactical display. "Now the Council has sent a fleet to our borders. They demand we surrender technology we discovered and activated. They demand we submit to their authority. They threaten us with military force if we refuse. And I have a simple message for Executor Krell and the Council." President Taehyung's expression hardened. "We will not surrender. We will not submit. We spent 12 years asking for basic respect and never receiving it. We're done asking. The Council can withdraw their fleet and negotiate with us as equals, or they can learn a lesson about humanity that they should have learned long ago. We don't back down when threatened. Not anymore." The broadcast reached Frontier Gate moments before Krell gave the order to advance. The Council fleet moved forward in textbook formation. They had overwhelming numbers. They had superior positioning. By every standard tactical calculation, the human defenders should have immediately retreated or surrendered. Instead, Commander Insu activated Protocol Cascade. Human ships didn't meet the Council fleet in open space. That's what Krell expected. That's how traditional fleet engagements worked. You formed battle lines, exchanged fire, and superior numbers eventually won. Humanity fought differently. The first wave of human vessels jumped in from nowhere, firing advanced directed energy weapons, then jumped out before the Council ships could return fire effectively. The attacks came from impossible angles. Ships appeared, struck, and vanished. Automated drones emerged from the gate network itself, attacking from directions the Council fleet hadn't even considered guarding. Krell tried to adapt. He split his fleet into smaller groups to cover more vectors. Insu responded by focusing overwhelming firepower on isolated elements. 3 Council ships were disabled in the first 15 minutes. 7 more in the next 20. But the real blow came from an unexpected direction. On Luna Station, Chief Scientist Biora's team had been working on a problem for months. The Council fleet used standardized systems across all member species. It was designed for interoperability, so different species could coordinate effectively. That standardization was supposed to be a strength. Humanity turned it into a vulnerability. The viral code was elegant in its simplicity. It didn't destroy systems. It simply overwhelmed them with processing demands. Shields flickered. Weapons targeting systems glitched. Power distribution networks routed energy in random patterns. And it spread through the Council fleet's interconnected systems like wildfire. Within 2 hours, 30% of Krell's fleet was dead in space. Ships collided with their own allies. Formations collapsed into chaos. The mighty Council armada, which should have crushed the human defenders with ease, was tearing itself apart. Commander Insu watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. She didn't celebrate. Every disabled Council ship still had a crew. People who were following orders, fighting for what they believed was right. This wasn't victory to enjoy. It was necessity to endure. She opened a channel, broadcasting to the entire Council fleet. "Attention Council forces. I'm offering a ceasefire. Your fleet is crippled. You've lost this engagement. There's no shame in retreat. Take your wounded and leave. We don't want to kill you. We just want to be left alone." On the Vakren flagship, Executor Krell stared at his own tactical displays in disbelief. His overwhelming force had been reduced to a struggling, disorganized mess. His weapons were offline. His shields were failing, and now a human commander was offering mercy. The humiliation burned. But First Officer Zek was looking at casualty reports with horror. "Sir," Zek said quietly, "we've lost over 12,000 crew members. Another 20,000 are wounded. If we continue this fight, those numbers will triple." "We can't retreat," Krell growled. "The Council sent us to restore order." "The Council sent us to die for pride," Zek replied. His scales showed patterns of challenge. "Sir, I'm invoking the Vakran Military Code. Section 7. A commander must preserve the lives of his warriors when victory is impossible. I'm relieving you of command." Krell turned on his second, reaching for a weapon. But other bridge officers stepped between them. The crew had seen the casualty reports. They knew this battle was lost. Zek took command and ordered the retreat. The Council fleet withdrew, leaving behind 96 crippled ships that Insu's forces disabled but didn't destroy. The human commander kept her word. She provided rescue coordinates and allowed Council recovery vessels to retrieve their wounded. Human casualties: 3 ships destroyed, 4 damaged, 187 lives lost. Council casualties: over 14,000 dead, 30,000 wounded, nearly 100 ships crippled. But the more devastating casualty was psychological. The Galactic Council's aura of invincibility was shattered. For 3 centuries, no one had seriously challenged Council military dominance. Humanity had just won an engagement against overwhelming odds, using technology the Council didn't understand and tactics they couldn't counter. The battle lasted 4 hours. The consequences would last for generations. On Earth, the news arrived to mixed reactions. There was celebration, yes. Humanity had defended itself successfully. But President Taehyung's address to his people was somber. "We won today. But let's not forget what that means. We killed 14,000 beings who were following orders from leaders who refused to treat us as equals. We didn't start this fight. We tried to walk away peacefully. The Council forced this confrontation. But those 14,000 didn't deserve to die for their leader's pride." He paused, letting the weight of that number sink in. "Today proves we can defend ourselves. Tomorrow we need to prove we can build something better than what we left behind. We didn't walk away from the Council just to become what they were. We walked away to create a better model for galactic civilization, one based on respect, equality, and cooperation. We have a long way to go before we achieve that. But today, at least, we proved we'll survive long enough to try." Across the galaxy, the reaction to humanity's victory was complex. Species that had been marginalized by the Council saw hope. If humanity could stand up to Council pressure, maybe they could too. Within days, dozens of minor species began making plans to withdraw. The Free Space Coalition swelled with new members. 17 independent systems became 40, then 60, then 80. A new power block was forming, with humanity at its center, not through conquest, but through example. On Lumina Prime, Councillor Veshtari faced calls for resignation. The military disaster at Frontier Gate was being blamed on the hardline faction that had pushed for confrontation. Moderate council members, led by Vex, were demanding new leadership. But perhaps the most significant reaction came from Commander Insu herself. After the battle, after the casualty reports were finalized, she opened the Frontier Gate to refugee ships. "Anyone who wants to leave Council space is welcome here," she announced. "We're not conquerors. We're not building an empire. We're just offering an alternative. If you're tired of the old hierarchies, if you want to live in a system that treats everyone equally, humanity will help you build that future." Millions responded. Ships full of families, scientists, artists, and dreamers from species across the galaxy began the journey to human space. They were looking for what humanity had found, the freedom to build something new. The Galactic Council had sent a fleet to restore order. Instead, they triggered an exodus that would reshape galactic civilization. 18 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. Foreign Secretary Tai Yang stood at the observation window of Horizon Point, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. The station was humanity's newest creation, built specifically as neutral ground for the negotiations that would define the future of galactic civilization. Behind him, delegates from 127 different species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, not the Grand Convergence Hall where Tai Yang had once stood alone, dismissed and disrespected. This was something new, something better. Counselor Thex arrived at Tai Yang's side. The Saurian diplomat's scales showed colors of cautious optimism. "The old council is finished," Thex said quietly. "We held a vote 3 days ago. Veshtari and the hardline faction have been expelled. The remaining members voted to dissolve the council structure entirely and petition for membership in your Confederation of Sovereign Systems." "It's not my confederation," Tai Yang replied. "That's the whole point. No species owns it. We're all equal members. That's why it will work," Vex said. "The old council failed because it was built on hierarchy. The strong dominated the weak. The ancient looked down on the new. You've created something different. A system where a species that joined last week has the same voting rights as humanity or the Saurians." Tai Yang nodded. The Confederation of Sovereign Systems was humanity's gift to the galaxy, though humanity hadn't imposed it. After the Battle of Frontier Gate, dozens of species had approached Earth asking how to build a better system. The answer was surprisingly simple: treat everyone equally, make decisions transparently, and resolve disputes through arbitration instead of political maneuvering. No permanent security council. No provisional memberships. No arbitrary restrictions. Just equal partners working together. In another part of Horizon Point, Admiral Ji Hai met with military commanders from 40 different species. They were discussing the transformation of humanity's combined fleet into the Confederation Defense Fleet. "The CDF isn't an occupation force," Ji Hai explained. "It's a mutual protection organization. Every member species contributes ships according to their capacity. Command rotates. Decision-making is transparent. If the CDF deploys, it's because member systems voted for deployment." A Vulcan officer, First Officer Zek from the Battle of Frontier Gate, raised his hand. After relieving Executor Krell and ordering the retreat, Zek had become a controversial figure in council space. Many called him a coward. Others called him a hero who saved thousands of lives. "Admiral, my government has authorized me to offer a squadron of Vakran warships to the CDF. We were your enemies 18 months ago. Why would you trust us now?" Ji Hai studied the reptilian officer. "Because you made a hard choice to save lives instead of protecting pride. That's exactly the kind of person we want in the CDF. The Confederation isn't about who you fought for before. It's about what you believe in now." Zek's scales showed patterns of respect. "Then the Vakran contingent is honored to serve." In the research wing of Horizon Point, Chief Scientist Bo Ora coordinated with scientists from dozens of species on Project Synthesis. The collaborative research initiative had already produced remarkable results. "We've combined Lumina crystalline computing with human quantum processors," Biora explained to a group of visiting researchers. "The result is computational capacity beyond anything either species could have achieved alone. Medical technology that combines Saurian regenerative biology with human cellular techniques. Energy systems that merge ancient designs with modern efficiency improvements." A young Lumina scientist, barely more than a student, approached Biora nervously. "Chief Scientist, I wanted to apologize. My people treated humanity terribly. Counselor Veshtari spoke for many of us when she dismissed your contributions. We were wrong. Bayor smiled gently. Your generation isn't responsible for the mistakes of the previous one. The question isn't who was wrong in the past. It's who will build the future together. Far from Horizon Point, Governor Gongshun's colonial alliance had evolved into something remarkable. 190 human colonies now operated under a coordinated framework that balanced independence with cooperation. The model had spread to alien settlements. Species that had been rivals for centuries were now building joint colonies, sharing resources, and creating new cultures. The Gate Network made this possible, Dongjun explained during a subspace conference with Earth. When travel between distant settlements takes days instead of months, everything changes. We're not isolated outposts anymore. We're a genuine community spread across the stars. President Tae-hyung, now in the second year of his term, had become an unexpected moral voice for the Confederation. His speeches emphasized the values that had driven humanity to walk away from the Council: dignity, equality, and the right to be treated with respect. We didn't win through military conquest, he said in a widely broadcast address. We won by proving that a better system was possible. We offered an alternative to ancient hierarchies and arbitrary power structures. The galaxy chose our vision because it was better than what they had. That's the only kind of victory worth having. Back at Horizon Point, the founding ceremony of the Confederation of Sovereign Systems was about to begin. Tae-young took his place in the Grand Assembly Hall, not at the center, but in the circle of equals. Every delegate sat at the same level. Every species had one vote. Every voice would be heard. The ceremony was simple. Each species formally signed the Confederation Charter. The document was brief, only 3 pages, but those 3 pages represented a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. No more provisional memberships. No more cultural superiority arguments. No more arbitrary restrictions dressed up as diplomatic sensitivity. Just equals working together. As the last delegate signed, Tae-young reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 18 months ago, he had walked out of the Grand Convergence Hall with no certainty that humanity would survive what came next. The risk had been enormous. One wrong move and humanity could have been isolated, economically ruined, or militarily crushed. But the risk had been necessary. Because staying in the old council meant accepting permanent inferiority. It meant teaching future generations that dignity was less important than stability. That respect was something you waited for instead of demanded. Delegate Hyan Wu, now Ambassador Hyan Wu, representing humanity in the Confederation Assembly, approached his former mentor. Do you ever regret it? Hyan Wu asked. Walking away? Tae-young watched the delegates mingling. Species that had been enemies now discussing trade agreements and joint research projects. Every single day I questioned whether we'd made a catastrophic mistake. But no, I don't regret it. We proved that respect between equals is the only foundation for lasting peace. That was worth fighting for. The ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. The old council beacon, which had broadcast the council's authority across the galaxy for millennia, was officially deactivated. In its place, a new signal went active. The Confederation beacon, carrying a simple message to every corner of known space. All species are welcome. All voices matter. Build your future with us as equals. Within hours, 17 more systems petitioned for membership. 5 years passed. Captain Daehyun's exploration vessel Indomitable Dawn pushed beyond the edge of mapped space, deeper into unknown regions than any ship had ventured. His crew now included humans, saurians, Lumina, and a dozen other species working together. Captain, we're detecting anomalous readings at the edge of the Gate Network, his science officer reported. Structures even older than the gates. Evidence of civilizations that predated everything we know. Day Hyan studied the readings. The galaxy still held mysteries, still had wonders to discover. But this time, humanity would explore them as equals, not as supplicants. On Earth, children grew up learning about the day humanity walked away from the Council. It became a story parents told their kids about the importance of self-respect, about standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult, about building the world you want to see instead of accepting the world others built for you. At Horizon Point, Ambassador Hyan Wu received a message from Captain Day Hyan about the ancient structures. He forwarded it to the Confederation Assembly with a simple note. "We found something incredible. Ready to explore it together?" The response came from 190 member species. Every single one said yes. Yang, now retired from diplomatic service, watched the news from his home in Geneva. He smiled, remembering that moment in the Grand Convergence Hall when he had made the hardest decision of his life. Walking away had seemed like failure at the time, like giving up, like admitting humanity wasn't good enough. But it had been the opposite. Walking away was how humanity proved its worth, not by begging for approval, but by building something better, not by accepting someone else's hierarchy, but by creating a system where everyone stood as equals. The Galactic Council had been right about one thing. Humanity wasn't ready for their system, because humanity wanted something better than what they offered. And now, 18 months of courage and 5 years of hard work later, the galaxy had something better too. The old order, built on 10,000 years of tradition and hierarchy, had crumbled in 18 months. The new order, built on equality and mutual respect, was growing stronger every day. And it had started with one simple act: a human ambassador standing in a vast chamber, surrounded by species that dismissed him, and saying the word that changed everything. We single quotes redone begging. Humanity had walked away from the table, and in doing so, they had built a better table where everyone was welcome to sit as equals. That was the real victory. Not the battles won or the technology mastered. The real victory was proving that dignity and respect